academia to me was like, oh, those are folks that I'm never going to relate to.
Now
know?
You're in charge of an education office.
Running a head office and I have a doctoral degree. I mean, I'm like, wow, how did that happen? But that you just never know. So the benefits are there. We can get you there with very little out of pocket. You combine state programs with the federal programs and everything that we have, we can pretty much get you there. So go for it, what I say.
Welcome back to Leaders Recon. Today we're starting the overview of our Education Podcast Benefits Series, and today we're talking with the Chief of the National Guard Education Office, Dr. Kenneth Hardy. Sir, thank you for being on the show.
Oh, my pleasure.
So, how we normally like to start all of our episodes is with an interesting fact about our guests. So, whenever you meet people, what's a hobby of yours that you tell them and they're surprised?
It's not going to be golf.
Okay.
But an interesting fact that a lot of folks don't know is that I actually played in the Army band, and I joined the Army originally in 1982, a long time ago, as a trumpet player, and then transitioned to French horn later. And the coolest thing I did, though, in the Army was playing for President Reagan and President Gorbachev at the Reykjavik, Iceland Summit.
That's fantastic.
It was a really, really cool deal. Yeah.
How did you like Iceland?
So Iceland is like the opposite of Greenland, right? It's completely green and plush. It's a beautiful country.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. So I loved it. The people weren't as friendly to us, but it was just great to meet the president and actually participate in that effort. Was pretty cool.
Absolutely. So you said you've been in the military. Have you used a lot of military benefits for education?
So I like to actually say that I'm almost a poster child for that, and probably why I do what I do. When I left the Army, as I was ETSing off of active duty, the recruiter or retention NCO mentioned, he said, well, where are you going after this? And I said, I'm going to Massachusetts. And he said, well, you might want to think about joining the Guard up there. And I said, why is that? And he says, well, they pay 100% of your college tuition. And that was when it started.
Absolutely.
So I went to Massachusetts, which is my home state, joined the Guard. They paid 100% of my bachelor's degree. And later came back on active duty as AGR and used federal tuition assistance to get my master's degree. And then, lo and behold, I retired, came into this position I'm in now, found out I had 18 months of post 9/11 GI Bill benefits left, and completed my doctoral degree.
That's fantastic.
So I used education benefits to get through all of the degree levels I've achieved.
Excellent.
Pretty much no cost, almost completely zero out of pocket.
I'm pretty close to there. I've used the state tuition waiver for my bachelor's. That wiped out about half of it. And then GI Bill for master's. And now I'm looking at getting a PMP with credentialing assistance.
Good.
That'll be a fun one.
Yep.
So
use those benefits.
How long have you been in your current position as Chief of the National Guard Bureau Education Office?
So this position, I was in uniform. I was actually the education benefits manager for the Guard. It was here at National Guard Bureau. And that was kind of where things started administratively for me working in education. And took a little break. And then when I retired and came back as a civilian, this is back in 2014. So I've been doing this for 8 years, just about 8 years.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So what does your office entail? I think I was speaking with someone in your office, and it covers not only education services, but also bonuses. Is that correct?
So here at National Guard Bureau, we are split. We used to be in the same division, but now there's an actual education branch, which is my branch, and a separate incentives branch.
Okay.
So yeah, that's in Building 1, and we are separate. Out in the States, for most soldiers, that is usually handled by the education office, and it is combined. So your ESO is typically handling education benefits and incentives.
Okay.
So up here, we just manage it a little bit differently, but in the States, they do typically execute it from the same office.
Okay. And so what's an overview of your office, like services offered or things like that?
So the program is robust, right? Education programs, they're complex, and we have a lot to offer. Our primary programs are the GI Bill, of course, which we have multiple chapters there. Federal tuition assistance, which most soldiers are familiar with, right? Credentialing assistance, which is our newest program, and state tuition assistance. And state tuition assistance is tremendous benefit for, as I mentioned, that I used when I joined the Army Guard, that really all states and territories offer except one. And it's Guam. The only territory doesn't offer a state program. Outside of that, we also have Army personnel testing, which provides soldiers with testing opportunities to improve their line scores, qualify for OCS or other programs. And then we offer a ton of support programs through Dante's, which, things like tutor.com and your joint services transcript, CLEP and DSST, CUDA Journey, I can go on and on. Online academic skills course. There's just a ton of things out there for soldiers to take advantage of. And then really it's all summed up with counseling. That's another major thing. I've got 2 counselors here, and in every state they've got 1 or 2 counselors, if not more, that help soldiers navigate this incredibly complex environment we have.
Absolutely. So if there was a timeline or a lifespan of a soldier's career in relation to education benefits, how soon can they start using them? As soon as basic training is over, or like out of AIT?
Yes. So I would say most programs, soldiers have to complete basic training in IADT. So or officer equivalent OBC, or WOBC. So yes, that's pretty much for your federal tuition assistance, your GI Bill programs. Yeah, you're gonna you need to complete those to get awarded an MOS. State tuition is probably the one program that has a little bit more flexibility. In some states, I mean, day one, driving home from MEPS, you can qualify.
Oh.
Yeah, in some, because they write their own rules on that, and a lot of them they just consider that, hey, you joined, you're a member, you raised your right hand, you're eligible.
As soon as you swear.
As soon as you swear.
Okay.
And it varies by state. So some states might require basic training. Some might even require IADT. But always check with your state to see if you can't use the state program right away. Because we do have a lot of soldiers that do enlist with a good time frame out, maybe even up to a year, or even split option, right? And you're not going to complete IADT for a year to 2 years. So that's why they offer that. It's something that soldiers can use in that interim period.
Right. So you're going through your career, you went active duty, it sounded like,
Yep.
and then you went to the Massachusetts Guard.
Yep.
So some programs you can use until UETS. How are the majority of your programs able to be used after UETS?
Unfortunately, no. Most of them you have to be currently serving to use. Really, the only ones that you can carry with you are the GI Bill programs, and even those have rules. Post 9/11, which is only if you have active duty. So if you've been deployed for 90 days or more, you can qualify for post 9/11. You can take that one with you for life, actually, if your eligibility is on or after January 1st, 2013. So that's a great program. Montgomery GI Bill active duty, which is another one of our GI Bill programs that if you have active duty service, you can take that one with you after you separate for up to 10 years. But again, the newest one, and really we call it the gold-plated GI Bill program, is post 9/11, and that's the one you really want to hope to qualify for. We've got probably about 60% of the Army National Guard that qualifies for post 9/11. So that's a pretty good percentage of 335,000 that have deployed or served on some type of active duty. But the only other one I can think of that they might be able to take with them is Joint Services Transcript. Have you heard of that?
I've used it.
Yeah,
yes.
Perfect. So it's a great program that you can download your transcript and send that off to schools to take advantage of all that military training experience you have, and hopefully give yourself a jump start on your education. I've had some come to me with 45, 50, 60 credits that schools will grant just based on your previous military training experience, and you have that with you for life, basically.
Excellent.
So yeah, great program.
So with you and I having used seemingly extensively a lot of the benefits that are afforded us as service members, are there any, you hear, I kind of want to talk best practices scenarios where it's like, can you stack certain things? Should you use them in a particular
Order.
order? Right. So yeah, I think you see where I'm going.
Yeah, that part is definitely where the education counselors, ESOs, ESSs, our guidance counselors all come into play, because there are rules, and sometimes you can use them out of order, and you've exhausted one benefit, and maybe now you're not eligible for another one, or you didn't realize you're eligible for two at the same time. I always, rather than talking about all those complexities here, I encourage them to go talk to an ESO, talk to your ESS before you start your journey. Find out what you're eligible for. We recently changed rules within the past year. You could not use your Montgomery GI Bill Selected Reserve and tuition together at the same time. That was recently overturned back in 2021.
So a lot of these strategies are going to change with legislature.
They sometimes can change with legislation and policy, absolutely. So what was in place, sometimes months or just a year ago may have changed. So always check, because you might be shortchanging yourself, on what you could be eligible for. Because using those two programs together, federal tuition and the GI Bill, can really get you to, like we were talking about, a very minimal out-of-pocket cost.
And that was something that when I was in college, people kept telling me, you can't do it. You can't combine FTA and GI Bill.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, when I started in 2014 in this job, that was what I first found out, that the restriction was put in place literally like a month before I started.
Okay.
I was like, wow, great.
So,
and it took us several years to get that overturned, but we finally, after a lot of perseverance, got DoD to relent and allow soldiers to use both again.
So what's the regularity of how often the legislation changes education benefits? Is it pretty frequent, every couple of years, major?
I mean, you got some changes to post 9/11 pretty recurringly. We've got new periods of eligibility adding because of new qualifying periods, new declarations of national emergency and so forth. Our federal tuition assistance, even that policy changes. So yes, I wouldn't say it's not like on a weekly or a monthly basis. It's usually annual. So I just check each year to make sure, find out if there's something new. Find out again if some rules have changed to use things together.
What you can combine or can't?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Because even some of the state programs, how they're used with federal changes. Some states require you to use federal first. Some don't require to use it at all. So you gotta be checking those those rules. You gotta be communicating with your ESO, your education services officer, or your education services specialist, your ESS, or a guidance counselor, someone in the education office whose their goal is to get you through, degree completion or a credential or whatever it is, again, with as least out-of-pocket expenses possible. They want you to be successful in your journey. So talk with them. They're there to help you outline a plan.
Excellent.
They're very important.
So ESS, Education Service Specialist, Education Service Officer, those are
a lot
found.
of acronyms.
Absolutely.
Yep. They're all in your education office. And really super easy way to contact them is nationalguard.com. If they go to nationalguard.com, just Google that. And there's actually, and you click on education, right there it says contact your state. You just click on it, and it'll give you a drop down to type in your state and select your state, and then it'll list, in fact, it lists your state programs available, and then it lists any additional state benefits, because some states have their own incentives and other incentives, other programs, and then it'll list the education office POCs. So a way to contact them, either they may even have a separate website. So it's a great tool, nationalguard.com. Check it out. We've got all of our benefits listed there, by the way. So all the federal benefits are there. all the Fed TA, the credentialing assistance, the GI Bill programs, the Army personnel testing, the Dantes I was talking about, all those programs are all listed there. So it's a one-stop shop in order for them to take a look and see, let me take a look at what he's talking about, you know, go there. And then as you look at it and you're saying, okay, I think I'm interested in that. I want to learn more. Then click on contact my state, contact your ESO, and give them a call and then talk through, because every soldier is going to have a little different, you know, every program has different eligibility requirements, and not every soldier is going to qualify for every program.
Right.
So
Is that
you got to ask.
So whenever that kind of leads me into getting a soldier in the door for using education benefits,
Yeah.
and looking, you know, back to strategies, and hindsight's 2020. I didn't realize the significance of how important the VA office was. Do you work with any VA offices, and I actually used to work in one, and it was crazy
yeah?
filling out all the hours and submitting everything to the system. And
you were one of those. So you're like a VA employee working in a state ed office? Or?
Yes,
Okay.
I was working at the University of Central Oklahoma VA office.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So,
So we work with the VA. The states don't work with them as much. We do at the national level because we handle what we call VA inquiries. So if a soldier has a problem, the VA may send us a direct inquiry. Hey, we've got a soldier here saying they're not eligible for benefits. What records do you show? And we'll help correct those records if they're wrong. We are in constant dialogue with them. Soldiers can communicate with the school certifying official, who's actually a VA employee as well. And we recommend that they do that because, yes, they can help them talk through how, you know, just like the ESO can, but rules within that school. They may have some different rules. They may even be able to offer them or talk about different scholarship opportunities, definitely about GI Bill programs and how they're used there at the school, how they apply, and, you know, time frames for that, eligibility requirements. So I'd say that, yeah, outside of the ESO and someone in the education office, which helps plan your journey, the school certifying official is the next person you really want to call and get in contact with. Some call it a military affairs office. Every school, some call it Veterans Affairs Office. Every school has a little different name for it.
Does every school have one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, every now and then you might find a real small school, someone's double tapped, you know.
Right.
But most schools have a separate office.
Like community college is a differentiating factor, or?
No, I mean, they usually definitely have one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, same.
Okay.
Interesting. Like a really small school, a small private school, you know, may not be a big priority for them, but.
Okay. So the certifying official is going to be more aware of, you can stack this, you can get this, you can get a kicker, you can get...
Yeah, and then again, help you work with the VA in case you might have, you know, again, some issues. Maybe you're not getting your payment, you know, or you haven't gotten it started yet. Sometimes the school certifying official can help with that.
Because
it's really about getting started. The VA's program nowadays with certifying your enrollment is very simple online. You can even do it with your phone. And they do require you to certify your enrollment every month.
Absolutely.
And they didn't used to do that, but it's a good thing. They're just
that phone
making
number
sure
you call.
The phone number you call, or you can do it on, I think you just do it right online, you know, and just, it's super easy. But again, yeah, working with your school certifying official and kind of work out some of those details in the beginning. Every now and then there's some snags, just usually to get started.
Do you have any best practices? Like, I keep thinking I want to impart knowledge from when I went through college, and I was like, don't use 1606, save your GI Bill. So
that's a strategy.
Right.
I will say that is probably a pretty standard practice that we tell soldiers.
Is 1606 still there?
It is. It
Okay.
is. And it's a good program. I mean, it's up to $439 a month for 2023.
Wow.
Or for FY 2023.
I think mine was $200, $300, $250, something like that.
You go back that far?
So
okay.
something like that, maybe $350.
It's getting better, and then we throw a kicker on top, which now we're offering $350 kicker. So you're in that 7-8 range. I mean, it's not bad per month. Doesn't pay everything, but can help with the mortgage or car payment, expenses, things like that, or school fees, things like that. But yeah, I mean, you only get 36 months.
Right. That's what I was going to ask.
So you got to think, you got to weigh that out.
Get the most bang for your buck, save it a little bit, go on a deployment.
State TA initially, with the Fed TA initially, But if you know that your stopping point is a bachelor's degree, which I have a comment about that in a minute, and you want to just kind of exhaust everything, but it may sound real good, but then what happens later when, life changes and you maybe get married, have kids, and now you have, no benefits left to transfer, right? So it's like,
Or
I
Chapter 33 sounds good because you get BAH and
right,
stuff.
or you get out of the military, right, and you can use that benefit,
You
or
only have
you decide to pursue, like I did, that master's degree when, now you get no benefits left because you used them all in the bachelor. So it is a little bit tricky. It's not going to be perfect, and it's not going to be the same for everybody. But you do have to, and that's why, again, talk to your education services officer to help you map that out, and at least give you all the information to make a good decision. It may vary on the school too. Some folks get really laser focused on a certain school, not realizing that, that school might not be the best option. Maybe they weren't considering some other schools that might be the lower priced, have a different accreditation status. So you really need to weigh some things that only education professionals will probably know, and it can help them better navigate that.
And that's something that I wish I would have looked at and I told you this tuition waiver only covered half my college costs, and that's
Sure.
because they split the general tuition in half,
fees.
and so the rest of it was library,
Fees,
grass,
yeah.
something like that, and so that's not covered. And so
Exactly.
is that normal for universities, or do they normally have like where it's all in the tuition?
No, sadly, most of them do that now,
Oh.
especially our state schools. It's a bad thing. They split it out.
For a waiver,
right. Yeah. I mean, it's to avoid some things. I don't want to say to make it more difficult for folks to pay for it, but there are so many ways that you can pay tuition nowadays with different types of scholarships and programs like ours. That schools have, they come up with different ways to generate revenue. So you got to find out. You got to be, you be smart. You got to be sharp and look at, well, what are different ways I can pay for those things. That's why actually when we talk to ESOs, we do encourage them. It's better for a state program. My north accent just came out. My northern accent to pay for fees if they could, because that federal TA can't help with that. Federal TA limited only to tuition, but state tuition is not. And some schools or some states will, those fees, their tuition program, does pay for fees. So again, so important for soldiers to talk to their ESO to see what's changed. DC's program just over in the past year or probably 2 years doubled.
What they pay out?
Yeah, they were paying $5,000, they're paying $10,000 a year. So it's significant. These changes are a lot. Most of the time, they're good changes.
Is this to catch up with cost of living?
Exactly.
And okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's usually to adjust for the economy whenever they make an adjustment.
Make an adjustment. Sometimes state budgets, like the education may not have been just allocated that much in funding.
Right.
And so they get a funding increase and they're able to increase their cap,
Is that made me think of two questions, which is, isn't there a limit on FTA? It's like 36 months or it's not quite the same, but.
So FTA is limited to 2 things, or actually 3 things. 16 credits a year, $250 per credit, and $4,000 a year.
Okay.
So it's the 4,000 is kind of automatically employed because if you use 16 credits at a maximum of $250 a credit, you can only get to 4,000.
So you can use FTA indefinitely?
You can use it for 1 degree at every level, up into a master's.
So I can go get another bachelor's. Oh,
yeah.
Dang it!
So if you already have one, you can't get another.
Okay.
So
And
the Army wants to help you get degreed, but not to get you multi-degreed at the same level.
Overeducated.
And it makes sense. It's in that way we can use those funds to help more soldiers obtain a degree.
Absolutely. So, and the second question that I was thinking of were scholarships. Do those generally influence your use of education benefits, or they're usually just on top?
Wow. It depends. It can influence, but usually it's something added to, you got the, 3 funding streams, right? You've got scholarships, You've got federal funding, right? Financial aid, and then you've got, of course, the military benefits that we have, and that's what I mean. How those all work together and may influence one another can vary. So it's important again that soldiers talk with their education counselors and so forth in the states to talk about that, because they might not even realize, oh, I'm eligible for a Pell Grant. I
So
can
many
apply for
different
that.
scenarios.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's like, absolutely, yeah, apply for that. Or did you know, like certain schools, of course, offer their own scholarships, right? So you definitely have to look at all the different factors that are involved in order to put together the best plan.
Absolutely. So I heard that there were some changes with FTA, and so speaking of other changes, I have used Army Ignited a little bit in the past. Isn't there's a new Army Ignited website coming out, right?
There is. So that just actually released on 26 August. And unfortunately, our old Army Ignited system is going away. Some might not say unfortunately. And a new system is taking place. So it's a little confusing because the system's still called Army Ignited. There's not new name, there's not different version type. We're kind of calling it the upgraded Ignited. There were some challenges with the old system. So this new system doesn't require schools to upload some files that they were required to upload in the previous system. So it makes it a little bit easier for them. So soldiers before were enrolling with their university, and the university was sending enrollment files to Army Ignited. That process isn't going to take place anymore. So the benefits stay the same. The website's going to look similar, but it will have some different functionality, some different terms too. Soldiers may or may not notice them, but instead of educational institutions, they're going to be called academic institutions. So you might see AI instead of EI. Instead of an education pathway, they're called education goals. And there's just going to be some little bit different functionality for even the ed staff out there to process transactions. A few different rules for military withdrawals. I want to make soldiers aware. Before you had, I think it was up to 3 years to submit a military withdrawal. Now it's 30 days. So that's been significantly reduced. And that's going to be approved actually not by an ESO, but by the next level up. It's even above us, by the folks at Access AU, which is under the Department of the Army. So get your military withdrawal in quickly. Do not hesitate. And it's not for a failed grade, all right? It is, you're on a deployment and you're withdrawing, right? And you have 30 days to do that. And then you won't be recouped if that military withdrawal is approved. So that's a big different, a very different process. And then the other thing that's probably a good news story is your credit hour cap has been eliminated. So you'll come into the new system. So even for someone like you, potentially, well, no, you already have the degrees at that level. But let's just say you had used 100 credits at your bachelor's degree level. You're entitled to 130. You're actually going to come into the new system at 0.
Oh, okay.
Credits are gone.
There's no residual carryover.
Nope. So we're giving everybody a fresh, clean slate. That's a good news story. You still only get the 1 degree. So if you already have one, you don't get to get another one. But if you want to take a few more classes, now of course you do need to have a degree plan. But everybody's coming in with a fresh slate of credit hours. So that's 39 for a grad and 130 for undergrad. And a fresh, clean slate on your GPA.
Oh.
So if you had a low GPA and were on hold or something like that in the previous system, you're going to kind of come in fresh. So you get 2 chances there, credit hour, a clean slate, and a GPA clean slate. So those are good news stories. But again, the not so good news potentially is the military withdrawal time frame now reduced to just 30 days. And actually the one change that Army is committed to reversing, academic certificates. You were able to pursue those in the previous system. You actually got 21 extra credit hours to do so. You cannot pursue those in the new system.
No, when you mean, what is a certificate?
So it's just, it's not a degree, but it's a school granting you a certificate in a program. They have lots of academic certificates in various disciplines that schools offer. It's a way to get something other than a degree at that level. And you can get one at the associate, bachelor's, or master's degree level previously. In the new system, unfortunately, functionality for an academic certificate as a goal has not been built. So Army really wanted to get the system working quickly because this has been a very quick transition. We actually transitioned out of the old into the new, and it took them almost less than 60 days. It was a very quick transition.
Wow.
So to do that, we couldn't bring in all the functionality. So Army is hoping to add that academic certificate functionality back in probably sometime around second quarter. So for those folks that are currently in a program, you have a couple of options. One, you keep going and unfortunately pay out of pocket, and there's no guarantee that the Army is going to pay any of that. Or two, take a knee, take a semester off, and pick it up again when Army builds it back in.
Okay. And so, speaking of certificates and things that aren't necessarily degrees, they're like mentioning before, I'm trying to get my PMP, Project Management Professional. So there's a new program, relatively new as of 2 years ago, called
2020.
Credentialing Assistance.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What's that about?
So Credentialing Assistance, a great program that really was established to help soldiers that are transitioning take those military skills and make them relatable to a civilian career. Not every military skill equates to a civilian career, and sometimes you might have the training and experience, but you don't have that civilian credential or qualification that they're looking for in the civilian world. You got a military one, but not necessarily a civilian one. So what Credentialing Assistance does is it bridges that gap. But while it bridges the gap very well for an active duty soldier who's transitioning, I think it does even more incredible things for Army National Guard soldiers that are currently serving in those occupations as a civilian, right, during the times they're not drilling. So this is going to enable them to maybe obtain a credential they didn't have before, stack a credential like CompTIA certificates that you can get, or CompTIA credentials, and continue to build on your career to help you advance or promote or even apply for jobs that, again, you didn't realize that you had this opportunity. Now you have $4,000 a year. Okay, it's the same TACA bucket, right? So you don't get an extra $4,000. You get $4,000 to pursue a credential every year. It is the most generous program of all the services. So Army is really leading the way on this. And even myself, I got my doctoral degree last year in 2021. Yep. But I'm thinking about a PMP, why not? It's just another great little thing you can do to help make yourself more competitive to an employer.
Civilian and government side,
either way. That might help you, again, maybe even get promotion at work. It really can help be that thing that stands you apart on a resume. So I just encourage soldiers to look into it. Army Cool is the website you go to. You just Google Army Cool, and you'll come to the website. Has almost 1,600 credentials on there that you can choose from. You can sort by MOS. You can sort by career. There are a lot of different avenues you can pursue, and it'll give you options. Once you're going to narrow down which one you want to pursue, then you can go on to Army Ignited, right? And actually apply and use your credentialing assistance benefit.
Okay.
So it's kind of a two-step process. Go to Army Cool first to find the credential. And also, there's going to be, you can see, again, all the credentials that are related to an MOS there or to a career. And then you can see all the requirements for that credential. Some of them you have to have 2 years of experience, 4 years of experience, 10 years of experience before you can even qualify for it. So you got to look at that. Some don't require any. They're all different. And then some of them might require some type of education as well, education requirement like a degree. You really have to look at that. And the only thing I wanted to add to that is, so we're talking up credentialing assistance. We're very excited about the program. Army National Guard, we went triple this year on the number of soldiers we've been able to help. So we're very excited. Our budget has tripled, which leadership is not as excited about, but we don't know where it's going to end. I mean, it's a new program. So where's the top line? I think soldiers are still finding out about it.
You haven't identified the need entirely yet.
Soldiers are still, it's something that, for a credential, you can't just say, oh, I'm going to go for that and do that right away. You got to think about it. There's a process. You're talking about schooling and having to enter a course and such as the PMP. It's not just, they're not going to give it away. It's going to take several months of coursework, a very difficult exam. So it's something you got to figure out timing wise. When's that going to fit into your lifestyle? And it may not be this year. It might be something, I'm going to pursue that next year. Maybe you can go for a different one or something in a different, because here's a neat thing too that Army's doing is you do not have to pursue a credential within your MOS. You can choose it in any MOS.
Whatever you want your job after the military to be.
Exactly. And there are some components, I believe Navy, I don't want to be misquoted, but though that only allow you to pursue within your MOS, which understandably they're thinking, for the military, we're going to use these funds to help make you a better service member, right? Well, Army had a kind of a multi-pronged approach on that. It was making you a better soldier, but also at the same time helping you in transition. And then for us, we're soldiers, citizen soldiers. So for the Guard, we're benefiting as soldiers and as civilians.
All the time.
Yeah, so it's fantastic. But again, what I wanted to say is the new Army Ignited system, which we're very excited about. Go to the new website, which is slightly different. I gotta look at it, make sure I get it right. It's Army Ignited. The other one was armyignited.com. This one is armyignited.army.mil. So it's a different website.
That's the new one. The longer one is the new one.
The longer one's a new one. When you go to the old one, it won't direct you. But there's a banner that tells you to go to the new one. Because the old one is still up. That's what some soldiers are getting confused, and that you actually can go in there. Don't do it. You can go in there and submit an ed goal, but don't do it.
It's not going to go anywhere.
It's not going to go anywhere.
The lights are turned off on that website.
Yep, it's just going to sit there. In fact, what I've directed my counselors to do is just reject it, and then contact the soldier and tell them to apply in the new system. But go to the new system to apply for your TA. That is functioning for courses starting on 1 October 22 and later for LFY 23. But for credentialing assistance, it's not live yet. So that functionality is still being built. So there's going to be a little bit of a period here after 1 October that it's still in process. We're actually going to be testing, it's like testing mid-October, with the goal of going live on or about 1 November. So just in case, the soldiers are going to want to go to the new Army Ignited. They're going to wonder, where do I apply for credentialing? Not there yet. All right, so don't think you're on the wrong website or
stay on Army Cool for now.
Stay on Army Cool, figure it out. Look at what credentials you're interested in,
and everything.
Do a little bit of research. Look at which provider you want to go to. There's a lot of different providers for these training opportunities.
Or they're also called vendors.
Vendors
who sell the courses or the boot camps.
Correct. The training vendors or providers is an approved list on Army Cool that they can look through to see. And even if they have one in their neighborhood that they want to go to that's not approved, you can actually submit that as a recommendation. Probably the best way is through your counselor to get them approved, or just tell them to contact our folks at Access AU to become an approved vendor, because we're building that list. I mean, a few years ago we had 100. Now we have over almost 500 on there. So it's continuing to grow. I mean, think about how many training vendors and training providers there are across this country.
Who doesn't want more options?
We want more options. We want them to get in there. Exactly. So help us build that list and do some research and just, again, look at what's going to be a good option for you. And it could be a license as well. There's license options, there's credential options. $4,000 on the table. You might already have a degree. Even if you don't, a credential could be a great option for you.
Absolutely.
Yep. And the top ones right now I wanted to mention, they are CompTIA. All the CompTIA ones are like in the top 3. I guess the IT guys have really really nailed this one.
Is that a programming or a
Yeah,
cybersecurity or?
it's mainly programming. It's CompTIA. Well, there's network, there's A plus, and security plus. So there's a bunch of different ones there, and then PMP is very close, and then the physical fitness one, which certified personal trainer.
Oh, okay.
So that's very very popular out there as well.
Those are all that stuff
any-
you can get certified in.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
And that's a great little career field, actually, for a lot of folks. Become a certified personal trainer. Absolutely. So get your certification while you're in the Army or you're in the Guard or simultaneously while you're in the Guard. It's just a great option.
Absolutely. Well,
Free money on the table.
I'm excited to go back to college now. So,
Yeah.
and so,
As am I, actually. I thought my doctoral degree would be it.
right.
That was the story I was going to tell you, is that
Oh.
when I got my master's degree,
Didn't want to do anything.
took a lot of work, and I was just like, okay, done, fini, education, check,
But we're always learning.
and that's, you did have that question about 10 years ago, what would you have done differently? It would have been realizing that, you never stop learning. You never stop learning. And I had said at that point that I'm done, and be careful, never say never, because education is one of those things that you really, you shouldn't say never. You should constantly be learning and growing and continuing in your educational pursuits. You may not want a doctoral degree, and that's fine, but there may be academic certificates that can help you. There may be a credential that can help you. There are lots of different courses that can help you, that are going to help you be professionally, going to help you personally. Again, these are the things that can help you get promoted. I know when I was in the military, my master's degree was that thing that pushed me above the other applicants. I was the only one that had a master's degree. So you never know where education can lead you. It's time spent that you've invested that you'll never go back and say, I wish I hadn't done that. No, that's the one thing you go, I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad I spent that time.
Whether you learned it and you liked it, or you learned it and now you learned you didn't like it, or something like that. So you're always learning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are some, I know a lot of folks, they choose a degree and then they don't end up in that pathway.
Sure.
That's okay. It's still building, you're still learning. There's still a lot of skills that you obtained in your higher ed that you gain from that.
Different perspective.
Yeah, I mean, research skills or whatever, study skills, whatever it is, those things are helping you grow. And maybe even helping you determine, well, this isn't the field I want to go to. Now I want to kind of pivot over to this. And that's okay. That's okay. It will never be wasted. So spend the time, put the plan together. You asked me what advice, again, that I would give. It would be that, you realize that time spent in education is never wasted. And put a plan together, contact your ESO, don't go it alone. Make sure you sit down with an education staff member to talk about all those financing options, to talk about which school would best fit your plans, which program, which major best fits your plan. I mean, there's multiple facets to it, right? So don't just look on a website, oh, this school looks good, and start on a journey and think, because you can get down the road and you realize the ladder's against the wrong house or whatever, and that's never fun, So spend a little time in the beginning. I think that's my best advice to them, to make sure you've got it as right as possible, that you have a good plan put together for funding, for the school, for the major. And then, man, I'd say put everything into it, fully focus on it, and whatever it is, I'm going to say, try not to aim too low, though. Some think, well, like I had said earlier about myself, I think actually when I got my bachelor's degree, I was originally thinking that's enough, but just leave the door open for those kinds of things.
Life doesn't stop.
Life doesn't stop, and I don't think education requirements are going to, get less as our society and our culture continues to become more and more educated, as information continues to sources and continue to grow, and and schools continue to mature and change their programs. I mean, we're becoming smarter as a culture. You know, we're getting more and more education. I mean, goodness, our young children are going to school. I mean, some 2-year-olds are going into programs, 3-year-olds. I mean, we're starting earlier. We're getting more and more education. So you know, I just encourage them to put a plan together and give it your all. And again, it won't be wasted time. You won't think down the road that, again, this is, why did I do that?
Absolutely.
No. But again, put the plan together, because a lot of programs, a lot of schools, a lot of jobs, a lot of career fields don't require, you know, a traditional degree. So
there's a piece of paper for everything.
yeah,
So.
I mean, there is. Make sure you get the right one, you know, because we have seen that happen where soldiers are pursuing criminal justice or certain degrees that, and then we say, well, what do you want to do with that, you know? And what they want to do with it is that credential is not exactly what they need in order to obtain that. So you got to look at the career field. That's another thing that counselors can help them do, to look at what's the future of that career field, what are the job opportunities there, what's the future landscape look like there, and can help you, and then you can make a better informed decision, because maybe that career field doesn't have as many. Oh, it has those jobs. Oh, that's the outlook. Oh, that's what it pays.
Maybe not the plan you're looking for.
Maybe need to rethink this one a little bit. Yeah, it maybe it sounded good, or somebody mentioned it, you know, and it sounded, oh, you can do this in a couple of years.
Absolutely.
Do the research. Spend some time with an education counselor. Map out your plan, and then, like I said, once you get it, walk it in.
Be disciplined and get in there.
Yeah, you can do it.
Okay.
If I can get to a doctoral degree, like I said, I really thought I would never go beyond a bachelor's degree. Seriously, academia to me was like, wow, those are folks that I'm never going to relate to.
Now you're in charge of an education
Now,
office.
running an ed office, and I have a doctoral degree. I mean, I'm like, wow, how did that happen? You know, but that you just never know. So the benefits are there. You know, we can get you there with very little out of pocket. You know, you combine state programs and the federal programs and everything that we have, we can pretty much get you there. So go for it, I say.
Well, sir, this has been fantastic, and I am very excited to go back to school and use some more of my benefits. So thank you very much for your time and your expertise. So
Been a pleasure.
appreciate you having on the show.
Been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool.
If you would like more information on any of the topics that we discussed today, please visit our social media pages in the links below. If you liked today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.